of a combat between two men, utilising matched weapons in accordance with agreed upon rules.
A duel.
Now, these contests of violence often grew from and were regulated by the chivalric code, a set of rules and behaviours originating in medieval France that dictated how knights should conduct themselves.
And thus the three essential elements of the duel emerged.
1. A duel can only be fought between a knight, an aristocrat, or a gentleman.
You see, a fight between two peasants or commoners is a brawl, regardless of how well organised.
2. A duel is about honour. If a gentleman should perceive his honour to be violated, then he must fight.
Now these can range from the incredibly trivial to the personal and indeed the legal.
3. A duel should be as fair as possible, and thus should adhere to a set of strict rules. The first codes of duelling, as we call them, were written up in Renaissance Italy.
The code duello.
And thus, from this, duelling became an accepted manner at which to settle your disputes, and to ensure your status as a respectable gentleman.
Not everyone agreed, however. Both state and church frowned on the practice as it undermined the rule of law and wasted the lives of the aristocracy.
And the much needed officer class. Between 1685 and 1716, French officers alone fought over 10,000 duels, which led to over 400 deaths.
And despite the best efforts of both kings and churchmen to wipe out the practice, duelling began to flourish.
And so, in 1777, a committee of Irishmen wrote up the code known as the 26 Dueling Commandments. This would go on to be widely used throughout Europe and eventually America.
However, here in Great Britain, these rules were deemed too violent, and so the Royal Code of Honour was written up as a more gentlemanly code to adhere to.
Whatever the rule set was, the challenge would always be for the same reason. It would be some perceived slight against a gentleman's honour. Now, these could be trivial.
Did you just insult my dog? Oh.
Or serious.
Damn it, you just shot my dog, sir!
Or possibly political.
Are you accusing my dog of treason, sir? I should hope not.
Or downright bizarre. For example, there was once a duel that happened between a man and a dog. It was in 1400 and the quarrel was over the dog's owner's murder. In the end, the dog won. Now, whatever it was, the challenge would always be the same.
I demand satisfaction, sir!
Actually, the challenge would usually be delivered in writing by one or more close friends who acted as seconds.
Fine. Right, well, I do need a second. Is anyone here close? Sir, you're a close friend of mine, aren't you, sir? Care to be my second? Yes, come on, step over, sir, step over. Now, as my second, you will have many different tasks, but first of which, I need you to turn around and face out that way for me, as I need to use your back as a writing pedestal. So, here we are. Yes, very good. Thank you very much. So,
the challenge would have to be laid out in formal writing.
Formal writing. Start that again, shall we?
And laid out the real or imagined grievances and a demand for satisfaction.
Now, if I can get you please to deliver that to him. Oh, thank you very much. Now, as the person being challenged, he has the right to accept or reject the challenge. Please, yes, my second, back over there.
Refusing the challenge could be on the grounds that it was frivolous, or that the challenger was not generally regarded as a gentleman, since, of course, dueling was limited to men of equal social station.
However, care had to be taken when rejecting the challenge, as it could draw accusations of cowardice.
Oh, and therefore, the challenger should allow the person being challenged plenty of time and opportunity to apologise as to avoid harm.
However, apologising could also be seen as cowardice and a stain on one's honour.
And if no such apology was offered,
then a duel would be arranged.
Now, once the challenge was accepted, both participants would usually have to select a second. However, sometimes contestants would opt out of choosing a second themselves. If I had the chance, I would choose a female second. The reason for that is because women themselves were sometimes actually feared duelists. The most notorious of such was the female French opera singer who went by the name of Mademoiselle Maupassant. And she was so feared because she would beat men and women alike in duels.
Now, from this point on, there would be no direct communication between the two principals, and it would indeed be up to our second to arrange the details of the duel.
First, a date would have to be set for the duel.
Now, this cannot take place on a Sunday.
Unless you're in France, in which it had to take place on a Sunday.
Not take place on a day of any kind of festival.
Oh, please don't make it till Wednesday. I have a meeting with the Duke of Marlborough then.
Oh, actually, yes, a week on Thursday I'm getting my hair cut, so...
I can do now. Today? Perfect, works for me.
Good job.
Next, a meeting ground.
A field of honour
would have to be established. Now, this would have to be as convenient as possible to any surgical assistance in case of emergency. And oftentimes, duelists might bring along with them a doctor who might wait somewhere else or sit in a nearby house in case of emergency.
Now, we do need a doctor. Is anyone here a medical professional? You, ma'am. You're like a medical professional. Would you care to come over? Be our doctor. Yes, over you come, over you come. Now, I'm sure, being a medical professional, ma'am, you're aware that due to your Hippocratic oath, if you can step over for me, you're not actually allowed to watch the duels. If I can hand you this, please. And if you can, if you could stand in the corner over there for me and face the wall, that'd be great. Yes, right, the corner. There we are, good, good.
I do feel a bit bad. Perhaps we should allow her to watch this one time.
Fine, yes, yes, no problem. Now, chief criteria when selecting a field of honour was isolation, as to avoid detection and interruption by the authorities.
And on that note, duels would traditionally take place at dawn, as the low light allowed participants to be less likely to be seen. However, as this is the only place they'll let us fight, is that okay with you, second? Perfect, we'll do it here.
Now, in regards to not being seen, there was a case of an officer with notoriously bad eyesight, and with spectacles unfortunately being outlawed in a duel, asked his opponent to draw closer and closer until he could see him. There was also an instance of two principals who despised each other to such an extent, they fought a duel at this range. Needless to say, they both died. Now, in continental Europe, it was the challenger that chose the weapon.
However, in English-speaking countries, the person being challenged chose.
With swords being preferred in continental Europe.
But pistols in the United States and Great Britain.
Now, in the case of a pistol duel, both participants or principals would fire one shot. Should both men be unharmed and the challenger was satisfied, then the duel would come to an end.
If the challenger was not satisfied, both participants may continue firing until one was wounded or killed. But to have more than 3 exchanges of fire was considered barbaric, and on the rare occasion that no hits were achieved, quite ridiculous.
Therefore, swords were still often chosen right up into the 18th century, as they were seen as more skillful and less random. Not at all terrifying. See, most gentlemen received some training in swordplay. However, there were those that prided themselves on their skills as a duelist, becoming the veterans of many duels, becoming just as notorious as they were dangerous.
Others were seasoned veterans at home on the battlefield who were no strangers to combat.
Now, it was important that gentlemanly behaviour was adhered to at all times, and just as important that our field of honour was cleared of all obstacles. So, second, if I get you to step back across the line, and doctor, if you would as well, thank you very much.
At this point, both participants would salute each other, as to give some evidence of civilization.
And thus, after potential weeks of preparation, the duel could finally begin. To do better than that. now? Huh? Well.
Stop! Come on, Doctor. Come sort him out.
Yes, Doctor, if you would, please. Just above the knee, just here, Doctor.
Most often,
Yes, please.
duels would only take place till first blood, thus severely limiting the likelihood of injury, as a scratch could be seen as satisfying honour.
Oh, come on, Doctor, quicker than that. I mean, that should do, shouldn't it? I mean, you're the medical professional, so I'm not sure, but... Aha! I mean, you jammed it in the wound, Doctor. How can I fight with that stuck in the... You know, never mind. You see, in some instances, a duel would go on until one participant were physically unable to continue. And in very rare instances, they would fight to the death.
For their rules, codes of honour, and talk of gentlemanly conduct, at the end of the day, a duel was an organised act of brutal violence, often ending in tragedy.
Now, the last man to die from a duel on British soil, aside from myself, thank you very much, Doctor, was one Lieutenant Frederic Cornet, a former French naval officer in 1848. And the man that slew him, Emmanuel Barthélemy, was tried and hanged for his murder.
And so it was with the advent of a formal police force and a more advanced legal system that dueling came to its end.
So too, ladies and gentlemen, is our demonstration this afternoon. Thank you.